The show is yours, Ramon.
All right. Good night to all the viewers. Good night, Kemar. Good night. We have Nigel coming in as well too. Uh, this is another edition of Alternate Views. We can't wait. You know we love that music. We love to hear that little intro, and we can get straight to business shortly. You know, we continue to invite all those alternate views. We continue to invite all of those comments, queries, and obviously, you know, that is what we are about on the show each and every Thursday night, 7 p.m. So tonight, we are going to discuss U.S. President Donald Trump and Prime Ministers of the Caribbean. They would have had a meeting a long time ago. What are the implications? What are your views on this particular meeting? There were some, obviously, leaders of the Caribbean that were invited. Some were not. Let's have a discussion. Let me have a conversation. Yeah, man. So we are going to roll tonight, and we can have a good time all the time, man. A good time. Always a pleasure, people. So we got Kemar. We're gonna have Nigel, and as I said before, let us do our thing. There we go. Nigel, how you feeling tonight, man?
All is well, all is well. Greetings and salutations to all the alternate viewers. Happy to be back. Work allowed me to have the time to join the show again, but I'm always listening. Even if I'm here, I'm always listening and tuned in. How you doing, man?
Man, they bless up all the time, man. Bless the love, bro. All the time, man. Every single Thursday night, I look forward to this show, man. They in the doubt,
Sure.
And I know the viewers do as well too, man. They in the doubt,
Sure.
Yeah, man. Trying to get Kemar now on the live now. Trying to get Kemar on the live. So he gets so poppy head in shortly.
Sure.
So, before we start, you're overseas. The viewers know you're overseas. What is the weather like? How things going over there? What is up?
Well, right now is winter time. Well, it should be fall, but we experiencing some winter temperatures. The lowest today was 38 degrees. The highest was 40 something. So that's pretty cool for fall there. But everything is well. I guess everyone is settling in from the presidential race. You could definitely feel that energy, in the air. Some people happy, some people sad, some don't really care. But everybody got the part to play.
It's the strangest thing. When you mention the temperatures in Fahrenheit, for some reason I don't grasp how really cold or how it's the strangest thing. I don't know the psychology behind it. But when you now mention, say, Celsius, I can relate to that word. It's the strangest thing. And the thing was, they do connect, huh? And
for sure,
obviously you can
so 38 degrees Celsius now would be 38 degrees Fahrenheit would be 3.3 degrees Celsius.
Okay. Well, no, I can understand that for sure.
Yeah.
And that is something I probably would have a challenge dealing with in terms of temperature. I can definitely understand that. When you tell me 38 now, I think in
Yeah.
38 Celsius. I know full well
Yeah.
you weren't talking about them, but I guess is obviously the portion of the world Barbados is in, and obviously the units of measurement we're actually accustomed to. Yeah,
The
man.
SI and the metric system, different
Yes,
systems
yes, there we go.
for
So now I
sure.
can fathom. I can definitely fathom though. The temperature using three. Three is
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah, man.
It took some time to adapt to, but we as humans, we adapt once we need to.
We have to. Yeah, we have to.
Mhm.
We have to. We
Mhm.
got Kemar. We got Kemar here. He just checking. Kemar, we're getting on.
You should be good. Hey, good
Right.
sir. Good night to you.
Good night. Good night. Good
Good
night,
night
bro.
to Nigel. I'm very happy to see you guys. Good night to all of the alternate viewers, early Patreon supporters, Patrick Designs, Aisha Harding, Rhonda Paris. They're saying in the comments. But we always have to give the fans some love, Ramon.
For sure. For sure, man. For sure.
Square 4, saying good night, Kimar, good night, Ramon, Hill, Nigel. Okay. Uh, Stephen Knight is saying good night. So thank you all for tuning in. I am glad to be here, Ramon, with you and Nigel, of course. Uh, Tonight, as we said, we are discussing the Donald,
The Donald.
Trump. I am glad that Nigel is on, as he's based in America, so he could definitely give us some real time on the ground experience as to what's happening in America. Um, but before we start, we usually begin with a quote from Alternate Views. So I want to get in that quote, as usual, before we start. But I want to urge everybody on the stream to like the program, to share the program, get it there. So far, we up at 48 persons. So this knowledge is vital. You definitely want to share it with, a friend, colleague, or somebody. So let's get it out there, like, share, broadcast, put it in chats, and let us have a good conversation. I am sharing it to a couple of chats right now. Um, let me get that going up there. Yeah, so let me just jump in here with a quote for Alternative Views. Ramon, on the ground in Barbados, we are feeling a shortage of some foods. Right? Chicken shortage, milk shortage, right? Evaporated milk. We don't even see them on the shelf. No. So, notwithstanding, I made the point in Alternative Views that there comes a point where, as the government increases its import bill, there will come a point that the government will have to start cutting that import bill. Right? So the more shortages created, you see that the easiest thing to do in Barbados is to run to import the shortage items from somewhere. Right? The shortage items from somewhere, therefore increasing our import bill. So having a high import bill, right, we need the foreign reserves to be able to maintain such a high import bill. So when it is time for cuts under the IMF program, right, when it is time for cuts and we cannot borrow additional money to top up the reserves, right, we're earning it in tourism and elsewhere, but then what do we do? Right? So I looked at the two largest areas of foreign exchange, how we consume it. So realistically, the two largest consumers of the foreign exchange in Barbados are fuel and merchandising. Right? So we spend majority of our foreign exchange on fuel and on merchandising. So when the merchants bring in the goods for resale, you know, um, that use up a lot of our foreign exchange. So I stated in alternate views that to understand the complexity of the problem that Barbados would face is debt service, and with debt service steadily increasing and interest payments. And at the time, I said that with Barbados signing on to the Joe Biden tax plan, which will increase the international corporation tax to 15%, I predict that strain will be placed on the international business and financial sector, and businesses will migrate away from Barbados, and we will experience a loss of revenue, similar to when Canada extended their exempt surplus arrangement to other countries where you could repatriate dividends back into Canada tax free. Right? So Barbados currently under the BERT IMF program to restructure the economy, and with our domestic debt profile being restructured to the detriment of local investors, and the government having a debt to GDP ratio reduction from 175 to 123%, right? The government will have to focus on expenditure cuts. Hence, the reason why workers are still being laid off and cuts are still being made to state-owned enterprises and making government more efficient as agreed with the IMF. What the government neglects to speak about constantly is that of the balance of payments, the constructs of investment, Ramon, exports, imports, and that of national income, where we gauge how much income and revenue Barbados as a country could make. So I argue that investment alone, just having money coming in, will not suffice, but we have to back it with a rise in exports of goods and services, right? Exporting from Barbados to other countries of goods and services. And I argue that Barbados received significant levels of foreign direct investment, but still Barbados experiences slides in foreign reserves habitually. So although we have high foreign reserves, as by the boat and discussed by government, the reserves will still habitually slide like this because we don't earn enough income to keep topping them up. We have to borrow, right? So I say that this habitual slide in Barbados' foreign reserves may be attributed to the fact that Barbados does not achieve a trade surplus constantly or significantly enough. That's basically what I just explained, to have any major increases of income on the balance of payments in Barbados. And when there is a general upswing in the world economy, this will give rise to imports of capital, meaning IMF, IDB, World Bank, more than the country exports. So you import debt at a more rapid rate than you export goods and services. So obviously there will be the imbalance in terms of revenue and expenses. So I argue that the current foreign reserves in Barbados are artificially high due to upswings in borrowing from the IMF, the CDB, and the IDB. And on this premise is where people say investment is powerful in determining the national income of a country. I argue that it is only powerful if government in a whole is able to mobilize those funds into revenue generating ventures, right? And expanding the current lot of goods and services that we have to offer right now as a country. Now, so far, I have not seen any massive expansions in any services or sectors or any job expansions happening in Barbados. So I argue that Prime Minister's frequent travels have been aimed at determining or deriving record levels of investment as Barbados' international profile has risen dramatically with the country's transition to Republican status, gaining coverage and recognition Interviews on CNN, BBC with international journalist Christine Amanpour, hosting the United Nations Conference for Trade and Development in Barbados, the COP conferences, so at the time COP 26, and the world renowned speeches by the Barbados Prime Minister, the address to the Ghanaian Parliament by the President of Ghana, and the burying of old slave bones originating from a plantation slave in Barbados. And this happened on Ghanaian soil, and the expansion into Africa and putting specific business executives into the diplomatic corps as a means to try to increase investment coming in to Barbados. Right? So Barbados signing on to the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. No, Ramon. Uh, we are taking a non-traditional route, right, in terms of partnering with China as one of our major development partners. So, with elections come consequences, and in America, we had the election of Donald Trump as the president again. So, given all of those facts that we just put on the ground as it relates to Barbados, right? That was Barbados in itself a silo. But we know one move on to Barbados in the context of the election in the United States and the impact that a Donald Trump presidency will have on Barbados, given the facts that we interjected via alternate views. Right? So that was just my intro and the intro to the show. Right? So I'm gonna let you guys go at it, and then we're gonna show a quick video and get into the heatedness of what we really come to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we see a little regime change here with Donald. He does things differently, really different. I know that Nigeria would have been able to speak to the environment around the elections. You know, there weren't any major riots. I didn't hear of any being broadcast. So we're all thankful for that. But as I said before, does things differently. He is, he's hard on, he's hard in terms of his foreign policy. He is stiff on that, really challenging on that. He challenges leaders. He does things. He's not your typical politician, as they would say. So I'm looking forward to see what are the moves he will make. He has already started to make some big bold moves. People are constantly chattering away from his particular quote unquote office. The whispering here and whispering there. Grumbling here and grumbling there. But his way isn't conventional at all. And sometimes you need that shake up. You need that shake up. It's good to go against the status quo a lot of times. But a different leader, and I am looking forward to see what the Donald will do next. Nigel, over to you. I know you have the experience on the ground regarding the elections and so forth, so I can hand over the floor to you.
Yeah. Here, especially in New York, which is a traditionally blue state, uh, that was expected, but I don't think the mass populace expected him to win, but win in such a uh, obvious fashion. He got far majority of votes. A lot of people did not turn out to vote this year. The energy and the mindset on the ground, based on, I would say, ethnicity, is very different, and you could point and tell why. Um, majority of the African Americans or the blacks voted for Kamala Harris, with a small percentage voting red. But the Hispanics in the country majority voted for Trump, even though his foreign policies are very strict, as you mentioned, Ramon. So there's a lot of, I think, acknowledging the reality of the life as lived in the U.S. right now, and who holds majority of that power. The Africans are giving us some statistics. This is from the WashingtonPost.com. So the voting bloc of black men and black women is just 12% of the entire nation, right? With black men making up seven, with black men making up five, and black women making up seven. So, you know, 12% of how many million, how much is that moving the needle? But everyone is dealing with the aftershock in their own way. But it is very interesting to witness. For me, I have a double consciousness as a Barbadian national living in the U.S. So it's very interesting to see, and I look forward to seeing what the next 4 years would bring to here and internationally.
Well, I saw that the Latino men, they're more than likely they just nipped away from their wives and voted for the
For
Donald.
sure, for sure, for
At
sure, for
home,
sure.
at home, they would have discussed probably the voting, and they would have said, "Yes, yes, my dear, yes, babes,
Hmm.
definitely Kamala." And then they went off and they did their thing. I saw that
Yeah,
for sure.
the
Yeah.
numbers showing that they there was some some differences in opinion.
Boy. This whole run was entertaining, to be honest with you, and
Hmm.
I'm just looking forward to see what happens next. I think his first run was very entertaining. How he handled COVID and so forth. He was always getting some highlights. There was every single nanosecond there was
For sure,
something in the news where
for
the
sure.
Donald's is concerned. Huh? But a salesman and an
Do you
entertainer.
think a president should be entertaining?
Um, I mean, my thing is, I believe he goes against the grain, right? And
Hmm.
when that happens, you will get some coverage. You will get some coverage, right? And that's my take on it. I will just say that for now.
Okay,
When you go
fair
against the
enough.
grain, you will get coverage. You will get some publicity. Right? You will get some publicity. Obviously,
Yeah,
in terms of making bad decisions on policy and so forth, that's not the type of publicity you want.
Hmm.
But if you're going against the grain for a very good cause, you gotta stand your ground and be strong and hold your lashes. That's my take on it.
right.
Okay,
Uh,
fair enough.
my opinion on Donald Trump, believe it or not, um, I had the idea that Trump would win, simply due to the fact that the way in which Kamala Harris was ascended to leadership to be the presidential nominee, but then was not even given a second. So if there was great success with Biden at the helm for the first 4 years, then we changed the candidate.
Hmm.
Right? Biden beat Trump once, and people underestimated Biden, and therefore they pass on the debate to Kamala, hoping that it would have worked on the people in trying to get the black and the Hispanic and the Indian vote, but it didn't work. Like, so I just think that tactics like that, the people see through political maneuvers like such, and voting patterns have changed in that the people are not necessarily willing to play power and political games, but they would rather vote for somebody um, who who could speak to run campaigns based off the realities they're going through. So illegal immigration into the US, a big problem. Right? The whole transgender issue and this whole thing, a big problem. Right? Bringing businesses back to America, growing the economy. Uh, we know America is a very capitalist society, and a businessman who aligned himself with basically all of the billionaires, the smart people in the society. Um, that these things bring confidence to the voting populace. Hence why Trump was able to. Hence why Trump was able to no. Let me say, entertainment is part of politics. We had entertainers on both political platforms, right? But realistically, when you listen to the arguments from both campaigns, I honestly did not hear a structured campaign coming out from the Democrats as to how they would tackle the issues of Americans, right? I saw a more entertaining campaign. So you had Beyonce, you had Meg Thee Stallion, basically you had the entire P. Diddy party um, endorsing the Democrats, right? So for me, when you go after the entertainers to be able to mobilize votes, that's a specific segment of the population that you're targeting because the intelligentsia does not necessarily rely on a Cardi B or somebody from the P Diddy party to tell them how to vote. Right, voting will be done on a more calculated basis. So I saw the Trump campaign as being executed in a way that captured the interest of the voters. It captured the pride of America as well. And the slogan MAGA, Make America Great Again, has resonated among Americans. Right? So people might say Trump is racist and whatever, but realistically, if he's racist, he was able to get his racist supporters to come to the polls to vote him in, right? So the persons who were not necessarily racist, they did not come out to the polls, or they did not come out in significant numbers enough to keep somebody who they count to be a racist out, right? So in my opinion, he was able to touch the hearts of those persons based on the issues that he put, and persons voted for that. Again, I didn't necessarily coming out from the other side. I don't think it has anything to do with misogyny about man and America don't want female president and sexism. That's a rubbish argument in my opinion. Um, there are strong female candidates, and the state have given an opportunity to become the president of the United States, they would definitely stand a good chance and they might definitely win. I just think that the campaign was not run as effective as Donald Trump's. I hate why today um, Donald Trump is the president of America, and yeah, so I could cut it.
Realistically speaking, after Joe Biden has stepped down, it was a little shy of 4 months that Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris at the time, had to galvanize the American people in order to elect her as the president of the US. Now, let me ask you this question, Kemar. Do you think 4 months is adequate time when the average presidential campaign is run at least 18, almost 16 months in advance before the general elections?
Well, no, so that's why I say strategically it was an error to put the vice president in to replace Biden, who's just a one-term president.
Mm,
Right?
okay, fair enough.
Um,
But Nigel, sorry, go ahead, Kimar.
No, yeah, well, right. You could go ahead because that's
Yeah, so,
basically
so,
what.
so let's let me just speak to that a little bit. I think it was. I mean, the actual campaign was, yes, 18 months or so, right? No, sorry, it was about 4 months. Sorry, 4 months, right?
Mhm.
But she was in and around uh, the administration for 4 years, for nearly 4 years, and
Mhm.
obviously she knew the ins and outs of it. And I think to a certain extent, Biden would have thrown her on the bus on a number of occasions throughout the trail. I don't think Biden was happy how he was taken down, right? So and it might be a conspiracy theory, but I think that he sabotaged the campaign a little bit with some of the things that he said, even within
Mhm.
those 4 months. And then you had, and Kimar mentioned, in terms of policy, there was one policy that actually that stood out. Kamala wanted to give money to these small businesses. She always spoke about being a middle class, coming from a middle class home, etc. She always starts all of her answering to every question with that, So that was one policy that I saw that, it made sense, and that's one policy that I said, you know what, it might catch the hearts of the small man, and the small man and so forth. In terms of the performers and so forth, she brought to her campaign on her campaign trail. She would have done that. I believe she wanted to get at least the popular vote, but we know that the popular vote alone doesn't win the U.S. elections. But bringing out those artists and so forth, she thought that she could sway the people the fans of these particular artists, etc., etc. So I believe that they made a number of mistakes, but again, 4 months, and I agree with you, 4 months isn't um, enough. 4 months isn't enough to campaign, and we got to understand too. And Kimar made the point that Trump, uh, motivated his base to come and vote. And he did that by selling himself on what people usually think within their homes, what people think in their minds, and they don't say. Trump actually sold himself based on that. They're always about America. Those particular, his base is about America. Not the biggest fan of foreigners, etc., etc. And we got to actually take our hats off to Trump because he appealed to his base. Now, some of the things he said probably was to in our minds, but this ain't making sense. But really and truly, he appealed to his base. So he sold himself very well based on his base. So he knew, and you got to take hats off to the people who would have controlled his campaign and so forth, because they knew the people to target as well too. They knew the people to target. So you know, you got to give him his flowers in that regard. You must.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Yeah, man.
I
Yeah, man.
also observe that the amount of money that was raised by Kamala in that short space of time gave people the illusion, the illusion that yes, now she's bolstered all of the people that were behind her. A lot of the ad campaigns, it in my estimation is almost like smoke and mirrors. You see her face everywhere, YouTube ads. Um, this presidential race, they went to a lot of the popular podcasts that's out there, the Joe Rogans, the Club Share Share, those major podcasts to garner, some attention, which got millions of views, but still did not translate into people coming to the polls. Um, I think the average Trump supporter is not ashamed, but the backlash that comes with standing up and say, well, yeah, he's a Trump supporter based on his bottom line. He dealing with money, economics. That's where I placing my vote and my confidence in. The average Kamala voter was very loud and vocal about, yes, this is who I'm voting for, and if you don't vote for her, then you choosing the wrong side, and it was very you could tell the battle of the minds was going on. But from the silence of the Trump supporters, I kind of had the confidence that, yeah, you don't know what's coming out, coming out with the win.
The whole silently right. It wasn't a big fuss.
No,
With
not at all.
the Donald
Not at
supporters.
all.
And,
Not
and
at all.
then as Kemar mentioned as well too, the Donald, he aligned himself with a guy like Elon Musk, spent 130 million US dollars. Obviously, where the campaign is concerned, you may mention that Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan obviously offered for Kamala to come to his podcast, and Kamala wanted Joe Rogan to fly to her, to go to her,
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
Joe obviously he said, you know what, no, 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 we can stick my way, and that is to come to me, so to come to me,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously you realize that didn't happen, so
For
that
sure.
would have been a decent avenue to show the American people who Kamala Harris
Absolutely.
is, because Joe Rogan, his show, his podcast, let me tell you, his podcast does numbers every single time. You had JD
Absolutely.
Vance on it, you had the Donald on it, so that would have been a
Mm-hmm.
good thing for Kamala, but she wanted it under her conditions,
Her
and
terms. For
Joe
sure.
Joe ain't about that life. Joe wasn't about
For
that
sure.
life, so
For
yeah,
sure. I agree with you though. As you said, that would have been the perfect platform
yeah,
to show the American populace who she was and what she really stands for. I think most of those podcasts from Joe Rogan run 3 hours plus. There's only so much jargon you could speak in 3 hours. You actually have to show character. You actually have to speak, for a lengthy period of time, which, I think they also said that she wanted to limit it to 45 minutes to an hour,
yes,
which
yes,
wouldn't have been fair. Donald Trump
yeah,
sat with him for almost 3 hours. I would encourage people to go and, take that in to see a different side. As he said, he's not a career politician, but what he is a businessman, and
yeah.
that's the frame of mind in which he thinks from.
Yeah. And you know what? She would have probably giggled for an hour, and for 2 hours, and try to talk for the next hour. Probably that might have happened. So, I mean, maybe it worked out well for her to a certain extent, anyhow.
Hmm.
But again, we saw the results. So, her strategies and so forth. Unfortunately, didn't pan out the way how. And as I mentioned, Joe wasn't happy. I don't think Joe was happy at
For
all.
sure,
If
for
you
sure, for
if you
sure.
jar if you jar Joe's journey to the White House, I would implore any listener now, any viewer, to have a look at it. His journey to the White House. This he would have gone through so much, and then for that opportunity to be ripped away from him like that, he wasn't happy. No doubt about that. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that. Just now I had on the screen a photo, um, which was this one, right? This was this one. So we saw, because we getting into the hot seat now, right? We're climbing in numbers. You're up at 91%, so we want to, get this up to 100. So I want you to share all over. But this photo will open up the discussion as to where we want to take it. Now we know all about political alignments, and we all know that candidates tend to have favorites in the race, right? So this here is a picture of the Barbadian leader along with the vice president at the time. Now, I cannot say definitively, but based off association and based off photos and based off pictures, right, we can see that uh, our prime minister had a leaning into supporting Kamala Harris as a female, right? Now, Ramon made the point about the opportunity being taken away from Biden. because people were criticizing Joe Biden as him being uh, unstable, not being a fit candidate, not being fit mentally, and he was ripped out to the presidential run at the last minute for a candidate who was not necessarily the most popular choice, and that was reflected in the voter turnout and the voter numbers. Now, the fact that Barack Obama was on the campaign and Kamala still didn't win, it should clearly show that there's a lot of introspection that should be done as it relates to how they approach politics. Right? So Barbados obviously aligning itself to the Democrats. Here was Biden, who was the president at the time, and then you had Kamala Harris, who was the presidential choice, and Barbados, making that alignment. Now, I want to read the article that is attached to this picture for you guys. Right? It says here that the prospect of Kamala Harris presidency following the upcoming U.S. election could inspire new hope among Caribbean leaders of a new era of improved relations and support for the region on issues such as climate change, according to Peter Wickham, the noted political scientist and pollster. And with American President Joe Biden's withdrawal from the presidential race, Harris, vice president, has emerged as the frontrunner for the Democratic nomination, offering a stark contrast to the potential impact of a second Trump term. Now, Wickham told Barbados today that this development is likely to be welcomed by Caribbean leaders who have been wary of the repercussions of a Trump presidency and the impact that it might have on oil prices, particularly in light of ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza. So here you have it. They're saying that Harris presidency could be better for Caribbean leaders. And he says that I believe that Caribbean people are concerned about how the president would address those types of issues, like the Gaza issue, the war in Ukraine. Those have the impact, have the potential to send the cost of oil to the roof, and those kinds of issues, I think, would impact on who we want in the White House after the next election. The former lecturer in political science and research methods at UWI said he also contrasted Donald Trump's vision of an end to the war in Ukraine and Gaza with that of other world leaders, and with Trump proposing that Ukraine should be handed over to the Russians, whereas the rest of the world is more comfortable with a slightly different solution. And my feeling is that you want a president that has the necessary muscle to push an agenda in regard with giving away Ukraine with what it needs to finish up. He said that our administration will be more attuned to the needs of the Caribbean and could be more open to extending support for vulnerable countries grappling with the effects of climate change. This, he said, aligned with the efforts of Caribbean leaders, such as Prime Minister Mottley, who have been advocating for the urgent action on environmental issues. And in contrast, Trump's America First rhetoric and track record on environmental matters have raised concerns in the region. The political scientists say that while Trump might attempt to dismantle environmental initiatives as he did with the Paris Agreement during his previous term, such actions can have a lasting impact even if they were reversed by subsequent administrations. I would still agree entirely that those kind of environmental initiatives and the conversations will go more smoothly under a Harris administration because they are not promising to be America first. I think the idea is that there should be America first, but not America only. Trump seems to be America only, and that is really problematic. Become stress. So yes, Biden stepped down. So he said here that Wickham commended Biden for his decision to step down, certain that it is a display of political maturity that could serve as an example for Caribbean nations, and he suggested that the region should consider implementing term limits, pointing out that the tendency for Caribbean leaders such as Ralph Gonzalez of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Roosevelt Scarrett to remain in office for much too long. No, that's a whole other conversation. So you guys heard Mr. Wickham's contribution, right? About a Harris presidency being better for Barbados and the Caribbean because a Harris presidency aligns with Barbados's prime minister on issues of climate change and the environment and like. So you could clearly see based off the photos as well the definite alignment between Barbados and that of the Kamala Harris campaign, right? So now that Kamala has lost, having shown open support for Kamala, I know that she's lost. Um, that brings us to another interesting perspective, fellas. Right? You guys should know in politics, you guys should know from medieval times during the Roman circus and wars and in any battle that if you side with the enemy, against my ascension to rulership or so, um, then there's usually repercussions for making such open endorsements. So, first, I want to know if you guys agree with much of the article. What do you guys think about the article, the contents of the articles, and can you guys offer me an alternative view before we get on to that point?
Hello,
Okay.
Major to go first.
Okay. I would say it is on point, as the article pointed out. The policies that the Biden Kamala administration would have had aligns very closely with what Prime Minister Mia Mottley is about, chiefly the environmental climate change issue. Um, Now that she has lost, I can't pinpoint to you where Barbados would fall in the relationship with US based on the fact that they, as you said, openly chose to support, the Biden administration. It would be interesting because I am not certain, don't quote me, but I'm sure that a lot of the food on the island, a lot of the foreign and fruits and stuff would come through somewhere through the US. You would have to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it would be an interesting thing to see how that develops over time. I think the Minister Motley is doing a great job on the global stage in her talks and being diplomatic with different nations, but we have yet to see what that would look like with the US with Donald Trump as the president.
Right,
Well,
very interesting, Ramon. Any thoughts?
well, firstly, there were no new wars on the Donald Trump. That's the first thing. So globally, right? For all the rest of presidents in recent history, new wars started. That's the first thing. First. So we talk about him being a warmonger and so forth. In terms of the record, that doesn't seem to. I mean, you had a couple close calls, a couple threats, and so forth under his leadership, but the boy in risk, right? And then you have situations where in terms of climate change, he is not a big climate change advocate. So there is going to be a clash where that is concerned. Right? There's no doubt about it. Right? There is going to be a clash. So as Nigel said, we are going to see how this tussle goes. Right? And in terms of obviously of the column that was written, we know uh, we know how that column, how very biased is where that column is concerned, um, due to the fact that Trump is not a big support or a big fan of the alphabet people, which is the LGBTQ situation. So we know the bias of that column, right? How that column can come across a little bias, right? So that's my take on the on that particular, and I see a little tussle. As I said, uh, the Prime Minister, she has asked for a face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump, and time will tell how that goes. But as I said before, the Donald, he is not a big fan of the climate change agenda, so there will be a tussle. There will be a tussle. That's my take. That's my take on it.
Well, I will highlight something to you on the screen, right? Um, I want to show you guys when Donald Trump first. Ah, can you see my new screen?
Yes, I
Yes.
can see your new screen. Yes.
This was in 2018, right? Um, of September. This was in 2018 of September. 26th of September, as you can see, uh, the government changed. So it says here, President Donald J. Trump and First Lady Melania Trump stand with Her Excellency Mia Mohammed, the Prime Minister of Barbados, join a photo opportunity prior to diplomatic reception Monday, September 24th, 2018. Right? So you can see this. Now, as we know, there was an election in 2020. Right? 2020, and Trump went on to lose in 2020. Now, since this particular since this particular meeting here with Trump, right? Since this particular meeting here with Trump, Donald Trump invited Caribbean leaders. Donald Trump invited Caribbean leaders to his Mar-a-Lago estate, right? He invited them. And y'all can remember the Prime Minister of Barbados opposing, like, opposing venomously the meeting that was set up for Donald Trump, citing that he was not going to divide the Caribbean. Right? So we do better than that. Uh, we usually offer video evidence. Right? We usually offer video evidence. So after this picture that you can see here, there was not much interaction, but then Trump sent um, Pompeo, his Secretary of State, down to the Caribbean, and our Prime Minister blew off Trump. Right? If you look at the reverse, we've never seen our Prime Minister blow off Joe Biden or Kamala Harris in any way, but she blew them off. Trump. Right? And you can see my new screen where it says Caribbean leaders boycott Pompeo talks as row grows over U.S. relations. Right? We see that. Right? We see that. Now, again, remember this developed center story. So I'm hoping you guys could see my screen clearly. So when it come up, it says the prime ministers of Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago are boycotting a scheduled meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in a growing row between Caribbean nations who are open to improve relations with the Trump administration. Right? So I want you guys to get that here properly. I'm going to repeat it. It says the prime ministers, right? The prime ministers of Barbados. Somebody's saying that I don't have any sound. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you clearly.
I can actually hear you clearly.
Right. Marcy, I am not muted. I don't know what's happening with your
Yeah,
uh,
I'm hearing you clearly.
computer, but everyone.
Usually I'm the one with the audio issues, so yeah,
Right.
I'm good to
So
go for
as we
now.
were
So
saying, so it says here, the prime ministers of Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago are boycotting a scheduled meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in a growing role between Caribbean nations who are open to improve relations with the Trump administration. So this is the Trump administration before Trump was ousted, right? This is the previous one. This was before Biden, right? So I can repeat that one more time. The prime ministers of Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago are boycotting a scheduled meeting with Mike Pompeo aimed at improving relations with Trump administration, right? So it says, but the meeting represents a departure from formal talks between the U.S. and CARICOM, the 15-member organization that advocates for collective regional interests. Barbados's prime minister, who is also the CARICOM chair, announced earlier this month that she would not be attending the meeting in Jamaica, which she described as an attempt to divide the region. Right? So this is the same Donald Trump and his Secretary of State. She's accusing them of trying to divide the region. And they said, I am conscious that if this country does not stand for something, then it will fall for anything. She said, as chairman of CARICOM, it is impossible for me to agree that my foreign minister should attend a meeting with anyone to which members of CARICOM are not invited. Mottley has previously criticized the US for inaction on the climate crisis and its regional impact on migration. The Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Keith Rowley later joined Mottley's boycott and announcing on Monday that he would also not be taking part in the meeting with Trump. She has the full support of the government of Trinidad and the people of Trinidad and Tobago in outlining our principles and vision for Caribbean unity. In the expectation of Caribbean unity, the Prime Minister of Barbados speaks for Trinidad and Tobago, Rowley said in a speech. And the Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness will be joined by leaders representing the Bahamas, the Belize, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia. So, Ramon, I want the alternate viewers to remember these specific countries, right? I need the alternate viewers to remember these specific countries because they're all going to become relevant as we go on in this discussion. These are the countries that went to the meeting with Pompeo, right? These are the countries that went to the meeting with Pompeo. Jamaica with Andrew Holness, right? The Bahamas, the Belize, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia, right? And St. Lucia. So I need the alternate viewers to remember those, right? So it says here that Pompeo's Caribbean visit comes as Donald Trump. This is his first day of an impeachment trial in the United States Senate over his efforts to pressure Ukraine to dig up dirt on Democratic rival Joe Biden. Right? Now, it says here that the meeting in the Caribbean comes a year after Jamaica, Bahamas, St. Lucia, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic leaders met privately at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, and Trump promised investment aid in exchange for support of United States interests. Excuse me. Shortly after, the same nations broke from the other Caribbean members to back Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido as head of state. CARICOM officially recognizes Nicolas Maduro as its president and urges dialogue with other members. But that's another topic, so we ain't veering off so deep into that tonight. But we focus on the countries that went and met with Pompeo, and also the countries that went and met with Trump. Right. So just to quote some things before we move on for this article, that the Barbados Prime Minister and the Trinidadian Prime Minister boycotting the meeting with Pompeo, the US Secretary of State, who represented the Trump administration. They called it as an attempt to divide the region and say that they have to stand for something. The Prime Minister of Barbados criticized Trump administration for inaction on climate crisis and its regional impact on migration. And that's basically now I want to hear something from you guys quickly before we show the next slide and video.
Well, the Prime Minister, she mentioned a divide, are trying to cause a divide, but from the article and from what I know, all the Caribbean leaders were invited. So if there was anyone who was looking at a divide or trying to cause a divide, it would have to be obviously based on the article, the Prime Minister, because all parties were invited to this particular meeting. And as I mentioned before, in terms of the Prime Minister's agenda, where climate change is very strong on that. But obviously, I think that she has a stronger agenda where that is concerned with the UN, etc. So we know the bias that might be there as well too. So there will be clashes, and probably was a clash. And you saw the picture with her next to the Donald and his wife. Maybe that meeting didn't go too well. But again, there was still an invite to all Caribbean countries, and obviously the two notable Caribbean countries that opted out and would have said, you know what, I am about this life, is the Barbadian Prime Minister and the Trinidadian Prime Minister. So out of the Caribbean countries that all, and this word all is very important to the viewers, all of the Caribbean countries as a whole were invited, and two obviously made two conscious decisions to not be at this particular conference. So we see where the divide or how the divide would have occurred. That's my view on it.
Hey, thoughts, Nigel? You muted.
You muted, bro.
Thank you. I would like to know what exactly they were standing up against that called for such a stark line to be drawn in the ground. I would assume at those levels of governance, there is certain procedures and protocols that must be followed. Such a big state such as U.S. inviting the smaller Caribbean states to sit and just deliberate. I'm not privy to those conversations, but I would like to know explicitly what it is that was being stood up against that, to draw such a stark line in the ground. And as someone in the comment section mentioned, President Trump ended up firing Pompeo in 2021, but still at that point in time, they're supposed to honor the station that a man has based on the governance. But it's very interesting. I don't think it would fare in our favor going forward, but very interesting to see.
Yeah.
I think one of the big issues with the same climate change As I mentioned before, Trump is not a big supporter of that particular agenda. And the on the other side, you know, uh, the other side is a big supporter of the climate change agenda. So
Mhm.
more than likely, the tussle would have occurred because of that particular topic, along with, I believe, mentioned in the article, migration policies. So two of those uh, challenges, two of those topics, they more than likely would have clashed on, right? More than
Right.
likely,
Right.
yeah.
So
How does the latter of those two topics affect a Barbadian society, though, that the prime minister would decide, hey, I ain't sitting with you guys because of these two of probably 10, 20 other issues that must be dealt with by government. So how strong of are these two policies that it will cause for a complete boycott, on that level?
What the climate change? But you know how climate the agenda about how climate change affects the the Caribbean nations in terms of she talked about flooding and storms are worse, etc., etc. And you got to remember that, as I said, the prime minister, she is strong. That is her go-to. Where her thoughts are concerned, that's her go-to. So she's strong on that. She's very strong on that, right? And again, might be uh, due to the fact that there's some eyes on a particular position, and that is one of her key topics. To probably move towards that direction. That's one. And so eyes are on her because of that. And remember, this is a world agenda as well too. We're changing agenda, the climate change. So she's strong on that for her particular reasons. And I mentioned the reason, eyeing a particular position probably. And Trump obviously is not the strongest supporter of it. So I think that's one of the major issues, if not the major issue.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's the clash.
yeah. So here's where it gets interesting. No, now you ask a question that I really want to touch on. What does all of this mean for a Barbadian living on the ground, and what does it even mean for Barbadians in the diaspora? Because I see online we have a lot of Barbadians living in America on here, Sir Alfred Benjamin and some others, right? So what does it mean? But before we get there, there's an article here now which came out yesterday, I believe, and it says that Barbados PM asked Donald Trump for a face-to-face meeting on climate. And it says exclusive. Mia Mottley, who has championed climate action, says she will seek common ground with US President-elect Donald Trump. And it says the climate championing Prime Minister of Barbados has invited Donald Trump to a face-to-face meeting where she will seek common ground and persuade him that climate action was in his own interest. Let us find a common purpose in saving the planet and in saving livelihoods, she told The Guardian at the UN's COP29 climate summit in Azerbaijan. We are human beings and we have the capacity to meet face to face in spite of our differences. We want humanity to survive, and the evidence of the climate crisis we are seeing almost weekly now. Only by personal meetings among world leaders can the massive changes needed on climate action be achieved. She believes President Trump has been very clear about the importance of that kind of face-to-face conversation, and he believes that he can solve as well. The Prime Minister, who took Barbados out of the Commonwealth realm to be a republic, has been an electrifying presence at the recent UN climate summit. So it says in an impassioned speech demanding world leaders to try harder to avoid passing a death sentence onto her country. No, it says that the reelection of Trump has thrown a deep shadow over the COP29, which kicked off on Monday. and scores of world leaders flew in for the summit. But the heads of government of the world's biggest economies stayed away. Delegates fear Trump will withdraw the US from the Paris Climate Agreement, dismantle regulations and climate targets, and push forward with plans to drill, baby drill, for more fossil fuels. That was very interesting. Stick a point there. It says scientists have warned that if he follows through on his campaign promises, that the world has little hope of limiting global heating to 1.5 above pre-industrial temperatures, etc., etc. It says that Trump has shown a willingness to deal with crisis before. And Mottley noted, I think that there are possibilities for discussion. The same warp speed that President Trump addressed the issues of the jobs and the vaccines and the development of a job is the same warp speed that we want to encourage him and others to look out for decarbonizing technology. And she also believes that she could show Trump that the US would benefit economically from tackling the climate crisis. For example, she pointed to the flaring of methane from oil and gas production sites, and she gave a long list of ideas. Molly argued that Trump would also find it difficult to fully reverse the Inflation Reduction Act. So here goes the Prime Minister of Barbados telling Donald Trump how to run the US because of many formerly depressed areas around the US, including traditionally Republican voting ones. And it has seen new jobs and industries spring up because of it. That's so weird. Said we had 4 years of municipalities, states, and the private sector all significantly making investment in a low carbon economy in the US. And she said you are unlikely to see a return of everything in as bold, or that should be bold, a way as some people may fear. So Motley reckons that rich countries will not stump up enough cash from their own budgets, though she argues that they ought to do far more than they are doing right now. And then spoke about the Bridgetown agenda and went on and on and on as the suggestions towards Donald Trump. Right? Now, Ramon, this was way more than I thought. Right? This is way more than I thought. So, this to me sounds like you demanded Donald Trump to come and meet with you as the Prime Minister of Barbados. That's how the article sounds to me. Right? You demanded him to come to the table to speak on climate change, and they're fearing that all the environmental protections will be rolled back and that the climate agenda is on the track. This is the same climate agenda that aligned with Joe Biden and Kamala's agenda. Right? Now, Trump has said openly that climate change is a hoax. Right? Trump has said openly that climate change is a hoax. So definitely you have two opposing agendas. Right? Donald Trump, as the US president, has his own agenda. The Prime Minister of Barbados had her own agenda, which was supported by Kamala and Joe Biden, which does not align with Trump's agenda. Right? Now, I want to show you guys a picture. Right? But I need you to remember what happens when you have opposing agendas. When you have opposing agendas. I want to show you guys geopolitics tonight. You can see this picture clearly, guys. You can see this picture clearly.
Yeah, I can see it clearly. Yeah, hopefully the viewers can see it as well too.
Okay.
I can see it.
Now,
Yeah.
the first guy on the left that you can see here, Ramon, right? First guy that you can see right here, this guy here on the left, his name is Alan Chastanet, and he is currently the leader of opposition in St. Lucia. the leader of opposition in St. Lucia. He was Prime Minister of St. Lucia when Trump had this meeting with him and these guys. So remember, I gave you a couple of countries who met with Trump earlier at Mar-a-Lago, right? So you maybe remember those countries. St. Lucia, immediately on the left. Dominican Republic, this guy here, the shorter guy next to Trump on the right. He's on Trump's right or left. Short guy between the two guys. His name is Danilo, sorry. And he was the prime minister or the president of the Dominican Republic. Right? Remember the year 2019 at Mar-a-Lago? No. The Trump left. Right? The Donald Trump's left. You have his wife, of course, and then you have the Prime Minister of Jamaica. That is Andrew Holness. Right? Then you have, next to Andrew Holness, Jovenel Moïse of Haiti. Right? Jovenel Moïse of Haiti. That's the Jovenel Moïse of Haiti, who is on the extreme all right, but extreme to Trump's left is the former Prime Minister of Bahamas, and his name is Hubert Minnis. Right? Hubert Minnis. No, Hubert Minnis was opposition leader, and then he was ousted, and now they have a new opposition leader. And Hubert Minnis just recently contested for presidency of his party, which is the FNM party, but he lost. Right? That will become important as we go on. So let me run through that quickly again. We're starting back from Hubert Minnis on the Bahamas on the immediate left, right? So I'm gonna put the mouse on who we're speaking about. So this is Hubert Minnis right here, former Prime Minister of the Bahamas. This is Jovenel Moïse right here, the former president of Haiti. This is Andrew Holness next to Trump's wife. This is Danilo Medina from the Dominican Republic. And this is Alan Chastanet from St. Lucia, right? And these are the leaders who met with Trump. Right, so let me just give you a quick video. Right. I am hoping that you saw that video clearly, right, Ramon?
Yeah, I saw the video clearly, yes.
All right. So you saw one second. Right. So you saw those leaders, right? No, those are the leaders that met with Trump. Remember them good? So Donald Trump met with them, and then by 2020 November, Trump was ousted from office. You remember that, right? So after Trump was ousted from office in November 2020, let us know, Ramon, right? Let us know as to what happened to each and every one of those leaders, which are also inclusive of Kitts and Nevis. So when you go on Google, right, I will type in St. Lucia general election 2021. Right? You type in St. Lucia general election 2021. Right? I can put that on my screen that you guys can see. Because I need you guys to really, really, really follow this part close, because this is where it gets very interesting now. Okay. This is where it gets very interesting now. Now in St. Lucia, right, you had a general election in 2021, July. So as you know, a president is he wins in November, but he really actually comes into power around January, right? So here is it now, Joe Biden assuming power, Trump has lost. And in St. Lucia, right, Alan Chastanet has lost government. So it says here, general elections were held in St. Lucia on the 26th of July, 2021. 2021. And the St. Lucia Labour Party won 13 out of the 17 seats in the House. And the UWP Party lost 9 of its 7 seats. Right? And this guy here, Alan Chastanet, lost his government. We see that, right, Ramon? And
That's correct.
Right. So he has lost his government. So remember, Biden is in power now. Alan Chastanet, the first guy on the left, right? We seeing it. We seeing him good. What you guys still seeing him good? Right. He's lost his government. Right. So we're just gonna put back that other picture quickly to show you it is the same exact person. Here he is again. The guy not immediately. He lost his government in the election in 2021. Right? So let us go now to Dominican Republic. So you type in Dominican Republic. Dominican Republic. Elections 20. Okay, man. Right. So let us pull up Danilo Medina. Right. So this guy here, as you can see, he was the president of the Dominican Republic from 2012 to 2020. Right. So he was, if you read his profile here, right, he met with Trump. I tell you, he met with Trump, and then in the same year, election year, he's out. He's no longer the president. Right? He is no longer the president of the Dominican Republic. Come on, and Niger. Right? He is no longer there. So that's two, right? So let us get past him now and go on to the other guys. The other guys. So we're always going to reference back the picture before we move on. So we move on from Chastanet on the left, Danilo Medina. We're going to skip Andrew Holness because Andrew Holness won back his government in Jamaica. Right? He won back his government in Jamaica. But the guy, Jovenel Moise, in Haiti, right? We all know what happened to him. So let us put it in Jovenel Moise. Right? So as we know, Jovenel Moise was assassinated. He was assassinated around July of 2021. Right? He was assassinated around July of 2021. That is only the same exact time as the St. Lucian election, right? So again, we're gonna reference back the picture one more time. Jovenel Moise, boom, assassinated, right? So that is three of these leaders that are out of government so far. Alan Chastanet, Danilo Medina, Jovenel Moise, assassinated. Now, this guy here, no, Hubert Minnis, we're gonna put him in. Hubert Minnis, right? It says here, no, that Hubert Minnis was prime minister from 2017. He's a one-term prime minister in the Bahamas to 2021 September, right? So he took out a general election in the midst of COVID, right? So it says here, 2021 general election. In August 2021, Minnis called a snap election less than a year before it was due. Although maintaining his seat, the FNM lost in a landslide, right? So July 2021, August 2021, right? So let us go back again to the picture and let us run through this thing one more time. Alan Chastanet lost government 2021 July. Danilo Medina, he lost government the same year 2020. Andrew Holness, he retained his government. Jovenel Moise, assassinated July 2021. Hubert Minnis, he lost his government August 2021. Right? Now, another prime minister of the Caribbean, right, who was not present, right, who was not present in this picture, but he attended the session with Pompeo, is this guy right here, right? This guy right here, and his name is Timothy Harris, and he was the prime minister of Saint Kitts and Nevis. Right? Saint Kitts and Nevis, and he lost his government too. Right? And he attended the meeting with Pompeo. Right? So it says here now that he was prime minister up until August 2022, when there was a change in government of St. Kitts and another government came in, and he's out. He is out. Right? So I know I said a lot, fellas, so let me cut it there. Okay. What are you guys thinking about? Oh, you just heard.
Sounds to me like a scene from I don't know if the viewers or yourself would have watched this particular movie, Final Destination, where all members present there would have had some level of death, political death. So it sounds to me like a scene from Final Destination. To me, everyone that would have met with Donald Trump at that particular time would have lost their seat, and unfortunately, one would have lost his life. So that reminds me of the movie Final Destination, well, obviously politically, but that I'm seeing a trend where that is concerned. I'm seeing a serious trend as well too, based on what you just showed.
Connecting the dots. One of the 6 or the 5 that was there has maintained power when all others has lost their political seats before being assassinated, as Ramon said. Uh, not my opinion, but just observationally, you would think that it has some sort of connection with the change of power in the U.S., also the change of governments, kind of trickling down within the Caribbean nations. Right.
Mm.
If he always says a coincidence, maybe a coincidence, maybe not.
Well,
What
let me
say
say
you,
this.
Mr. Stewart?
Let me say this. How about now? Let's say the reverse happens, right? Now that Trump is back in, right, can we expect elections in 2025 through the Caribbean? Right? And these particular countries that you can see right here, St. Lucia, Dominican Republic, we are seeing now that there are plans to rush to install somebody else as the head of Haiti, right? Bahamas, right? Can we expect to see a change in our administrations with the rise of a Trump presidency, right? Because clearly, these particular administrations that met with Trump obviously had an alignment of values and goals. Right? And now, if they are governed by leaders who do not necessarily have the same values and goals as expressed by the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and the Prime Ministers of Barbados who clearly don't align with Trump, right? In fact, the Prime Minister of Trinidad was heard using some very disparaging terms, um, you know, about Mr. Chassenay and Trump. He called Alan Chassenay Trump, right? So we could clearly see that there is some division going on at the level of CARICOM as to which direction the Caribbean should go. So with Joe Biden in office, right? With Joe Biden in office, let us do reverse, right? Let us look at the reverse. So we look at who lost under Biden. We look at who lost under Biden, and it's clearly that the Trump supporters, in terms of Caribbean prime ministers, they lost. Right? So all the Trump supporters who were Caribbean prime ministers lost, with the exception of Andrew Holness. Right? Now, let us do the reverse and look at the prime ministers who won under a Biden administration. So we started with St. Lucia. We started with St. Lucia. Um, so we're gonna go back with St. Lucia again. Okay. So let's look at the prime ministers through the Caribbean who won. Um, yeah. So we have 1 second. We have this gentleman right here who is currently um, the prime minister of St. Lucia. Trying to get his picture.
No problem. And before you do that, right, Kimar, I know the last show we didn't get to address the viewers.
Yeah.
we had a goal. We had a very very sturdy conversation. We didn't get to address the viewers, so I hope that we can fit that in. We definitely can fit that in this time
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
We get very
Well,
passionate. Yeah, we get very passionate.
yeah.
The conversation
We're
goes.
gonna go overtime after tonight because this is a very important show,
Yes,
and
yes,
we want to, we're gonna go overtime if that's necessary.
no problem. Let's go.
No, right. So this guy, Philip J. Pierre, he would have became prime minister of Saint Lucia after Alain Chastanet, who was an out Trump supporter. He became prime minister after Alain Chastanet, right? In Bahamas, but then Bahamas prime minister, his name is Philip Davis. So we put it up pictures because we want the people of the region to see who these people are, to see who are Caribbean leaders, to see to see their faces, that if you know them and know them anywhere. So this guy, well, so in the Bahamas, Hubert Minnis, he lost, and he was replaced with the Prime Minister Philip Davis in the Bahamas. And luckily enough, it says that Prime Minister Davis has successfully undergone surgery in the United States to address, a sciatic nerve problem that he has. So it's he's a big supporter of the US and he hope in the Bahamas. So yeah, so Hubert Minnis, who was a out and out supporter like of Trump, was removed, and this gentleman Philip Davis, he is now the Prime Minister of Bahamas. So he won under a Biden tenure, right? We know what's happening in Haiti. We had about 4 or 5 transitional leaders going up, and we can't get the situation in Haiti. So I wouldn't do Haiti. I will go on now to the Dominican Republic, right? So Dominican Republic, right? So, but in Dominican Republic, ooh, there was an election in 2024, but we don't want that one. We want in 2020. So in the Dominican Republic in the year 2020, July 5th, it says here that general elections were held on the 5th, and Medina stepped down. Appeared, it says incumbent President Danilo Medina was ineligible to stand for re-election, having served 2 consecutive terms since 2012. Right, so a new nominee was put in place, and these guys were the basic contestants. Right, so this guy here apparently became the new leader, right here, the new leader of the Dominican Republic, and obviously general elections were held in May of 2024 this year. So there is a possibility that they could have had another leader. And in St. Kitts, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts now is a Prime Minister called Dr. Terence Drew. And Timothy Harris lost his government to this gentleman right here, Dr. Terence Drew. So I hope you can see him good on your site. Not that one. This one here. Right. So this is Dr. Terence Drew from St. Kitts. So I said all of that. To say that with a Trump administration, you had a set of Caribbean leaders who went down to meet Trump, and just magically all of these Caribbean leaders lost government in some quickly held snap elections, and you have now the emergence of new leaders. So most of these leaders who emerged up seem to align with the climate change agenda and seem to be aligning with that of the Joe Biden and Harris plan, right? So now that you have Donald Trump in place, again, my question, will we see a changing of regimes through the Caribbean, right? To have leaders who may be more pro the Donald Trump agenda. And this is not anything that I made up or I speculate, but we put all the facts and the evidence on the screen. So the facts remain on you had regime change all through the Caribbean, you had to change the government in the US. So I'm putting the question, do we expect to see regime change through the Caribbean, given the fact that both Barbados' Prime Minister and the Trinidadian Prime Minister openly opposed Trump in a very serious way, right? I know the Barbados Prime Minister is demanding that Trump come to meet with her after they openly took a position not to meet with Trump when he sent Pompeo down to the Caribbean, and also they snubbed him when he refused to attend the Mar-a-Lago meeting. So the floor is now open for discussion.
Well, Nigel, go ahead.
Okay, if we following common sense and following what we observed, I would say yes, we do expect to see regime shifts. If the policies on climate change, immigration stands to be so strong that two of the island's leaders would decide to boycott that. I would assume that based on Trump's administration, his policies, and what he chooses to run, we would see that now reflected throughout the Caribbean. We speculating, but if common sense prevails, that should be how this goes. What say you, Ramon?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I really agree with Kemar. Well, Kemar just put the facts up there, and he's now asking for our opinion, and based on the trends, based on the correlation that we would have seen. You can look out for a change, a government based on the topics and the issues. Yes, and Kemar mentioned, you know, you were given a little a hand, and you were given a little invite, and your boy got the thing. So now, you asking now for obviously Trump to have a word with you face to face. I gotta see if Trump is going to return the favor in terms of boycotting as well too. So the thing about it is that it'd be nice obviously to find common ground, as the prime minister pointed out. But again, time will tell where that's concerned. But I expect to see, as I said, based on the trends and the facts provided, you should expect to see a regime change, a change in government. So I agree. Yeah.
What I would be interested in seeing though is the Jamaica's prime minister. What exactly are his policies, and where does he land on either side of that strip that he was able to retain his seat? Clearly, we can see, Barbados still has Prime Minister Mottley. You would have to let me know if Trinidad has the same head of state that it had during that time. But it would be interesting to see, as he is one who attended and retained his seat.
Well, the Trinidad Prime Minister didn't go. Um, he didn't go. Neither did Barbados. But Jamaica went, and he kept his. Oh, I forgot. Guyana had regime change as well too. So you had to change the government in Guyana as well, right? And the Barbados Prime Minister played a huge role in terms of regime in Guyana. No, Barbados and Jamaica does not align on a lot of things at economic level, right? So even at CARICOM has a government meetings, Jamaica don't really attend the meetings. Jamaica will usually send their foreign minister, um, or they usually boycott. So there's great disagreement between Barbados and Jamaica on a lot of issues at the CARICOM level, right? Um, Jamaica is not necessarily a country that you can waver when it comes to foreign policy because Jamaica is basically in the backyard of the US, much like Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Bahamas, and those countries that are right in the US backyard. So more than likely, Jamaica had to toe the line as it relates to some US foreign policy measures, which were obviously um, which still align, which I guess would align regardless of which administration is in the US. So I know for a fact that Barbados and Barbados's prime minister, they do not support Andrew Holness. Like, they do not support Andrew Holness. The Barbados prime minister supports the opposition leader in Jamaica called Mark Gordon. Right, and you can reference that because the Mark Golding and the PNP, they attend Barbados. There were party conferences here, and it's open knowledge that the PNP in Jamaica and the BLP are like body parties when it comes. So Barbados has shown that support for Jamaica's opposition, right? Which is a very strange phenomenon, right? So I am speculating that the push from Barbados to railroad or to sideline Jamaica and have a new leader of Jamaica was probably a plan under this current regime. But with the emergence of Trump, that kind of put a dent or a slowdown in what the Barbados was intended to do in terms of supporting the opposition and having a new leader for Jamaica that was not Andrew Holness. Right. So with Trump coming in the picture, one has to see the position that Andrew Holness takes, right? Andrew Holness takes and how Andrew Holness aligns with Trump. Because realistically, under the Andrew Holness um, regime, he was clearly not supported by Barbados' leader, our prime minister, and she's shown open support for the opposition. So Jamaica will be an interesting thing to watch and see as we proceed on that level. Now,
I think one of the topics, one of the major, I think there's a major topic as well. Is
you get some
again
feedback.
how liberal again feedback. All right, just hold a second. Let me just get a little feedback here. Let me see if we lower. It's again feedback.
It gone down somewhat, but
Yeah, it has gone down some. Okay, all right. Well, I hope it gets better as time goes on. But one of the topics that obviously that wasn't noted here, right? And I think is a big topic as well too, is how liberal.
still getting
How liberal
feedback. So I
it's
can I can mute you and try to you
okay.
could try to fix it
Okay.
quick.
All right.
Right. So let's just give him some time to get that. But yeah. So we're
Well,
looking at
you can hear me?
yeah, perfect.
Okay, beautiful. Good. Right. So one of the topics, we mentioned climate change and so forth. That was a major topic that would have caused a little tussle between the Donald Trump administration and the other leaders that boycott the actual uh, meeting. Right. I think what was mentioned there, I think really and truly, the Biden administration would have shown to be extremely liberal and left when it comes to the transgender um, community and stuff like that. I think that is one of the issues and one of the topics that you know might cause a separation as well too in terms of the agendas, in terms of opinions. And I think that's one of it. But it wasn't mentioned in the article. I'm just speculating here. The Biden administration It's very liberal when it comes to the LGBTQ community. Right? So that is one of the topics that might alternate view of the situation. That might be a big topic as well.
Yeah. But I want to show the guys one last thing, and then we're going to get into some comments quickly, right? Now, I showed you an article earlier from The Guardian, which says that Barbados PM asked Donald Trump for face-to-face meeting on climate. Right? And I had to bring this up because your guys are not going to believe my next point. Right? It says Ms. Mottley, who's championed climate action, says she will seek common ground with U.S. President-elect. And it says here that the Prime Minister invited Donald Trump to a face-to-face meeting where she could seek common ground. I wish to know where this meeting will be held, right? But they want this face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump on climate issues. I didn't want to scroll through this article. It speaks to the oil aspect. Right? The oil aspect. So it says here that delegates fear Trump will withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement, dismantle regulations and climate targets, and push forward with plans to drill for more fossil fuels. Right? And this is a Mottley's speech. Right? Drill for more fossil fuels. Right? So if you listen to this rhetoric, Ramon, you would believe that Barbados is completely against the drilling of oil and that Barbados is done with fossil fuels and that Barbados is completely carbon neutral or whatever, right? So on one hand, Barbados is on the world stage speaking of climate action, this and climate that. But on the other hand, let me show you what Barbados is doing at home. You can see my screen clearly, right? It says here clearly, Ramon, government reopens drilling for oil. Right? And you can clearly see that the year on this is 2023. That's just last year. Right? So this is the Barbados government reopening drilling for oil. Does this sound like the climate champion to you? Right? You clearly see, Ramon, in the Guardian article. Right? In the Guardian article, it says that the delegates fear Trump will withdraw from the U.S. Paris Climate Agreement, dismantle regulations and climate targets, and push forward with plans to drill for more fossil fuel. You see that clearly. And then, on the other hand, the Barbados government reopening drilling for oil. Come on, let us go. Let us dig in deep. Right? Let us dig in deep on this. Right? Let us dig deep in on this one. So here is the Barbados government reopening drilling for oil, although being the climate champion. So it says here, in about 3 weeks, government should be reopening the second offshore licensing round for the drilling of oil. Offshore Barbados after it was postponed last December. On the 1st of December 2022, the date given for the start of the round, the government announced that it would be relaunched in the first quarter of 2023 instead. And a statement from the Ministry of Energy stated that several companies have requested additional time to evaluate acreage and data, and government said this would allow for amendments to the legislative and licensing frameworks that will allow the country to improve efficiency and ease of doing business within the sector. During the March 14th budget presentation, Prime Minister Mayor Mottley said, I expect that the new round will take place in the second week of April, and this new push, therefore, will facilitate and fast track the processes and the direct state to state negotiations with the amendments to come to Parliament. Mottley said that Cabinet has already approved the recommended amendments to the Offshore Petroleum Act that should facilitate the launching of the new offshore bidding round. She said officials from Scotland are expected to provide technical assistance in the area of offshore wind with the assistance from the International Financial Corporation. This initial prospectivity suggests that there may well be as much as 42 trillion cubic feet of gas or 13 billion barrels of undiscovered oil. Right, this is the climate champion talking in Oromon. Right, this is the climate champion speaking about undiscovered oil and issuing licenses to drill oil off Barbados. And it says here that the reality is, though, that while you may have that cumulative amount that the 3D seismic work will tell you what is extremely immediately extractable, and therefore I don't count my eggs before the hatch. And that Barbados produces about 1,600 barrels of onshore oil per day. And around the middle of last year, the government announced its decision to open the bidding process on 22 blocks in Barbados's waters to drill, baby, drill. And Motley noted that the drilling for gas offshore had the potential to create a range of new job opportunities for Barbadians. Now, it says here that the finance minister of Barbados dismissed the notion that Barbados should not be pursuing such activity as the country seeks to reach an ambitious target of ensuring that the country is 100% reliant on renewable forms of energy by 2030. There are those who may ask, what are we doing? We have never said, Ramon and Nigel, listen to this carefully. Alternate viewers, listen to this part extremely carefully. We have never said we can abandon that which we have unless there are countries or a country willing to pay us, Barbados, to keep our natural gas in the earth and in the seabed. If that is the case, come forward and we will talk. But until the international community is prepared to help us finance our way to net zero, then we cannot leave our natural gas in the sea, the Prime Minister of Barbados argued. We see the natural gas as a means of propelling us onto the production of nitrogen and other things. Right? Now, I say all of that to say, Ramon. Right? I say all of that to say, if you go back and you read the statement that was issued in demanding a meeting with Donald Trump, right? The delegates at the conference, including the Prime Minister of Barbados, has these deep fears that Donald Trump will deregulate all of these different permissions and pull out to the Paris Climate Accord and, encourage people to drill for fossil fuels, drill, baby, drill. And still, climate champion has in her backyard the issuing of licenses to drill oil off Caroline Bay and other ways. I need to hear some alternate views, guys.
Boy, Beth, I hope you can hear me clearly. You can hear me clearly?
Go ahead.
Good. All right. So, firstly, based on the article, this is some will ask what they are doing. I think all will ask what they're doing, not just some. And then as it relates to the, the two contradictory articles, um, the old adage comes to mind: do as I say and not as I do. And then thirdly, the Prime Minister, she knows about this particular project. That's the question. That's another question you gotta ask. But I saw her name in the article there, but
Yeah,
it
it was
just
her words.
it's
It was
extremely
they asked
confusing.
her. Yeah, they asked her directly. Well, who
I
you
think, you
champion?
know,
Well, you take champion usually.
I hear confused. I know the viewers confused. Niger confused. Kimar, I know you confused too. So I want some answers, really and truly. I want some answers. Then because they got the whole place like up with this thing in terms of um doing saying one thing or champion one thing, and you drilling baby drill, So
You, you know, one thing is confusion, and this might be an alternate view. I believe it provides, as much as the Prime Minister champions climate change, as the article clearly states, that until an international entity is willing to pay us to keep our oil in the ground, we cannot afford to keep it in the ground. There's a lot of pros and cons that comes with drilling into the earth. It affects marine life, myriad of other reasons. But I do think it would be, if we look at this objectively, it is a good uh I guess tool to be in your tool belt to have a conversation with. I wouldn't be surprised if the Prime Minister come out of that meeting with Donald Trump, if he accepts singing a different tune. Or maybe having the US be the ones supply the funds that would enable us to keep it in the seabed or sell it directly to the US. But we will have to see. That is my alternate view.
that's a very good alternative view, to be honest with you. I think the word afford there is very strong, Nigel. Very, very strong. Very I would definitely say that is a very, very good alternative.
For
But
sure.
you see,
For
I'm
sure.
speaking with the knowledge, and I think you know as well too, of the superior agenda, or the agenda beyond her ambitions, the premises ambitions in Barbados. So I was speaking to that, right? So in terms of looking at it from a holistic point of view, but afford, that is a very strong word. That is a very strong word. You're
Absolutely.
correct.
Absolutely. You know
Yes.
that there's an old saying that says you don't let the left know what the right doing. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
on the left it could be climate change. We need to solve this and get to zero sum. On the right, it could be, hey, can we afford to not use this?
Yeah.
Can we afford to not tap into this resource? You know, we will have to see.
When you are, I guess, positioning yourself upward. Obviously, the things you say, you gotta say things to sell yourself. So,
For sure.
again, I look at it from that angle as well too. So I know why certain things were said, but the afford, very good point. No doubt about
Yeah. Well, guys, this is the thing. We're on the world stage trying to be the climate champions. If Donald Trump puts tariffs on large countries, you know, countries that import and export into the US, um, Barbados, come on. Yeah, I don't think that there's no special thing about the region for the Trump administration, um, as it relates to climate and the continuation of the climate agenda. Um, as part of Donald Trump's campaign, I hardly heard anything about climate change. Right? And all I could say here at this point, that if Barbados is drilling for oil, Guyana has oil. Suriname has oil. Jamaica has oil. Trinidad has oil. A lot of countries to the Caribbean has oil and a much larger base. And a lot of the oil companies that are in the Caribbean are American oil giants. So ExxonMobil has the large contracts in terms of exploring Guyana's oil. Right? You have Venezuela. Right? So we have to watch the Venezuelan situation because, as remember, we had the one Guaido scenario or whatever. So we really need to watch it. Now, something that I've seen in the politics of Barbados, I've hardly seen it where a leader of a country openly um, openly meets with Pope Francis, right? The Pope of Rome. Now, for 7 day Adventists, they feel aware about the Pope of Rome historically, right? But hardly ever you see leaders like openly, not saying that or anything, but I say, but hardly ever you hardly see leaders openly do it, right? So Barbados met our Barbados Prime Minister recently met at the Vatican. Right? Recently met at the Vatican. Right? So here we are on the Vatican's website. So we don't know if this is one of those appeal efforts to slow down the winds of change that may blow, right? We don't know if this is one of those efforts, but let us do some reading quickly. So you want to get those comments in, right, Ramon?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It says that, and I'm hoping you can see the Prime Minister of Barbados meeting with Pope Francis and Vatican media. So on the Vatican news, it says Pope Francis meets Prime Minister of Barbados. Pope Francis is on Friday morning, or Pope Francis on Friday morning received the Prime Minister of Barbados in audience in the Vatican. A statement released by the Holy See press office said that following the meeting with the Pope, Prime Minister Mottley met with Cardinal, and went on whatever. So this meeting clearly involved the Foreign Minister of Barbados, right? So for those persons who may not know what the Vatican is, I really think you need to go and do some research on what is the Vatican, right? On what is the Vatican, so that you will understand what it is. Right? So this is not any conspiracy theory. Like we're saying, this is open public information. The Vatican has a website, and you can go directly on it and see this information. Right? So it's nothing hidden. So I said that the Prime Minister of Barbados is in the Vatican to participate in a conference organized by the Pontifical Academy for Life entitled Common Good Theory and Practice. And the event on Friday afternoon foresees a dialogue between Prime Minister and some others. A professor of economics of innovation and public value, the dialogue will focus on how a new economics of the common good can help create urgent, well-designed action for our economic and social problems related to health, the environment, including biodiversity, climate, and water, and the future of artificial intelligence. Right? So here you have it. Here you have it. Climate, water, and other biodiversity. Right? So again, hoping you guys know who is Pope Francis. Right? And all I'm saying here is that Yes, we know all world leaders meet with poor, right? But what I'm saying is you do not usually see leaders from the Caribbean, small societies like us, usually making it a big feature as part of their politics, right? As part of their politics. Now, as was said, there are religions in the world who don't necessarily support Pope Francis, right? But like I said, everybody has their different persuasions, whatever on it. So I see this as a continued mission to keep the profile high in that requesting a meeting with Donald Trump, meeting with Pope Francis, taking positions in terms of the Israel Palestine war, taking positions in terms of the um, Ukraine Russia war. And as we know, Trump has said openly that he is not necessarily, he asked what is really the benefit of NATO. Like, what is really the benefit of NATO? So there are some opposing positions that the government, right, there are some opposing positions that Barbados has taken, which clearly do not align now with what a Trump regime would bring. So we wait to see what's going to happen. But would like to know what really, um, you know, is coming up from heading up to the Vatican, really, Mitchell, as you would more determine the Pope to be a religious person, offering religious, philosophy and different stuff. But now we're seeing a crossing up
Mhm.
between religious philosophy and that of politics, and that our prime minister, has uh, gone up to the Vatican. So, any
Well,
thought?
as the article says, it plainly says the conversation is about economics. We talk about economics, we talking about goods, talking about human capital, talking about money. So the conversation with a spiritual leader of the head of the Roman Catholic Church between him and the Prime Minister of Barbados is that of one of economics. Um, what that would bring out, what would that show for the people of Barbados? Again, we have yet to see, but it is they're clear to see in the article that economics is what was discussed.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you rightfully said, having discussions with religious leaders on economics is a very strange uh, phenomenon. Um, I know that Barbados, along the months, we've been associated with Chinese lenders, we've been associated with the Arab leaders, the sheiks. Um, then we went over to the African leaders, and now we are having conversations of economics with the religious, international religious leader, the head of the Roman Catholic uh, Church. So that was a very strange phenomenon, as was said. Um, I don't necessarily want to get so deep into the Christian philosophy, but I know that Donald Trump has professed Christianity to be his preferred religion. He's openly declared Jesus Christ to be his uh, Lord and Savior. Right? I'm not sure that Barbados necessarily, or the leadership of Barbados necessarily professes Christianity to be the the guiding philosophy right now um, of the government,
What do you
although the
mean?
country, huh?
How you mean? The prime
I,
minister was at the UN, holding Israel to task about the Old Testament and quoting New Testament scriptures. So how could we say that that is not? I mean, in word and in action, but I don't know if she has professed it, but we could
If
use that as a point of reference.
if we were guided by religious philosophy on that particular situation, we would have sided with Israel. If we were using the biblical rationale there, because if you
Mm-hmm.
know what the Bible spoke about Israel being the chosen land and the Israelites being the chosen people, then based off that solely, we would have sided with Israel. So obviously that's not the case. There are some other issues that came into being that caused Barbados to side with Palestine, humanitarian and otherwise.
For
So
sure.
I don't think so. Like everything that was done, and if you look at the policies, seems very anti-Christian to me and more liberal on steroids. Right? Liberal in the sense that for a Christian guided government, they would not necessarily seek to implement pro LGBT legislation or LGBT friendly legislation. Right? So there were parliaments in Africa that implemented anti LGBT legislation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We had a situation in Barbados where the IDB gave young children a survey asking them sexual questions about their sexual preference and how to touch themselves, little children,
Mm-hmm.
right? We had to remove or the attempt to remove prayers in school to rename them mindfulness sessions, right? Um, and we had the stifling of the church during COVID, right? And you even had the church aligning with the job agenda, the government, right? So for me, the pro LGBT stances that Barbados has taken, it may not come right out and say, well, we pro it or everything, but you could clearly see in the policies that we have adopted to,
Mm-hmm.
implement it based off what Trump is saying doesn't completely reverse the what it seems like Barbados would prefer to have right now.
Okay, fair enough. So it is only in word but not in action, is what you're
Right,
saying. Or
right.
at least
So
that's what it looked like.
yeah, so pro marriage, obviously Trump is pro marriage, man and
For
woman
sure.
marriage, right? Trump is pro recreation, believing in children born of man and woman, right? Born of man and woman. So these days go completely against the transgender agenda. What it seemed like the Biden Harris administration was in favor of compared to what Trump is in favor of. As no comparing that Barbados had uh similar ties to what the Harris Biden administration wanted. So in a clear divergence of philosophies, I cannot see the working together of a Trump administration and a Mottley administration. It's just two different. It's just two different administrative philosophies.
For sure. For sure. So now we could get to more in-depth information as to what could have possibly been, well, not possibly, what were the additional policies that were not aligning with the Trump administration, which caused the prime minister to boycott that initial meeting.
Yeah,
That speaks to it very, very clear. So you got climate change, we got LGBTQ policies. What else
yeah.
we got on the table?
Uh, immigration. The
Immigration,
immigration issue.
three high topic issues,
Yeah.
right? I agree with you though in the sense that even though it speaks to Barbados being a Christian nation and that being the spiritual roadmap that we use for our um, our governance. Even in the wider Caribbean, we are referred to sometimes even online. I see people calling it Barbados, or they're saying that it is an haven. It is an haven for those who would like to express themselves in that manner. I can't objectively disagree with that.
Right. Well, we're not really here to discuss people's um, preferences, right?
For sure.
In terms of gear or not. Um, so, but the perception is out there that Barbados is the pro LGBT capital of the Caribbean, right? So when that reflects itself, sorry, in terms of policies, obviously there will now be the pros and the cons of implementing such policy, right? So with the Trump administration, does the Trump administration favor does the Trump administration favor um, the agenda? Clearly said no, but Barbados seems to have an idea or a liking to want to push it. Right? So we went into stores in Bridgetown, and you had a female dolly with a penis in a skirt, and it said you can be whatever you want to be. So it was like a transgender doll, right? Now, under Trump administration, Trump is saying any teacher, any official, anybody he finds out is pushing this agenda, they will have to answer to him and they will have serious problems. Now, as a country, and you're on the world stage negotiating with Trump, and he's totally opposed to these things, but you have them happening in your country. Again, it comes back to the point that I can see a eye-to-eye collaboration based off what Trump is saying versus what Barbados seems to hold as of late. So, in the world of geopolitics, the stronger person or the stronger country wins out. Right? The stronger country will win out in terms of things. So, again, ask the question: what does the emergence of a Trump administration mean for the Caribbean, and what could it do among the leadership and the future leadership of the Caribbean based on the historical factors?
And looking like a moment where chickens coming to roost.
Yeah,
It's drawing very clear lines. There will be no room for illusions or smoke and mirrors. It's either you're upon the left or you're upon the
right.
right.
No, hold on. Now, this comment here is very interesting given everything you say. So it clearly says to me that Calvin is not understanding the trajectory that we're on. It was clearly said on the show that we are not discussing anybody's sexual preferences, but we are looking at the policies that are being set up in terms of what's coming through our parliament and the different legislative changes. At no point in time did I or Nigel or anybody speak to the Prime Minister's lifestyle. Like at no point in time did we, right? So don't push us down that line. Focus on what we're saying in terms of policy. The policy. There is policy specifically targeted to be implemented within countries, right? And that's what we're discussing it on. We're not getting into that personal debate, so don't drag us there, right? Oh, Easy D is saying, I do not believe that the PM is pushing the LGBTQ nonsense. There's no evidence of that anywhere today. No, I could give you evidence. Hey, I could give you evidence of it being pushed in Barbados. Right. So there's legislation in Barbados. Right. which specifically attempted to change the definition of a spouse. Right? So a man and a woman, right? Traditionally, the laws of Barbados protect heterosexual or is pro-heterosexual in terms of marriage, in that the laws only accommodate for man and woman marriage, right? So a spouse would definitely be, if you're a female, right? Right. If you're a female, you're supposed to be a man. If you're a man, you're supposed to be a woman. No. When you attempt to change the definition of spouse from that being a man or a woman to that of partner, what are you attempting to say? Right? So it's no longer a spouse that is a man or a woman, but your spouse is a partner. Right? This is not speculation. All of these things are in legislation already. Right? It speaks to policy. So don't make it personal, because it ain't about person, it's about the policy and what's included in legislation. Right? So the opposition leader at the time, Joseph Atherley, spoke about it. He opposed it. Caswell Franklin spoke about it. He opposed it. And Ralph Thorne recently spoke about it. And Wilfred Abrams got up trying to defend the government against it. So I'm saying that the instances are there. So we are not speculating anything. We are not just speaking in the air. We are speaking facts at actual times where opposition leaders actually spoke to instances where the agenda popped up along the way right in Barbados' parliament. Right? So it's not coming right in your face saying, yes, we're passing a bill that pro this. But if you change legislatively, little small things that going from saying, well, the parents of a child are a mother and a father, right? The parents of a child are a mother and father. To find a crafty way know that a child's parent could be that of two fathers or that of two mothers. That is part of the, it's right there in your, but I don't want to turn the show into this. I don't want to turn the show into this. Because I was just trying to show you, based off the rhetoric of Trump versus what I could see happening in the different legislations in Barbados. There's a complete difference. Don't have to take my word for it. Listen to Trump. Read Barbados' legislation. I don't necessarily listen to Barbadian politicians because we all know what happens there. Right? But it's all there. It's facts there. Probably next show or next two shows, I'm going to bring the specific legislations which point directly to what I am speaking about. And Pedro is saying, partner, Colin explained it well in Parliament. And this is Colin the 7-day Adventist, by the way. Hey.
It's time for comments.
Yeah. Time for comments. Because I see this topic is getting some persons very emotional. Some persons are not necessarily focusing on the logic, but more into the emotion of the discussion.
Sure.
So yeah.
So some comments.
Yeah. So some quick comments. Because there are a few. I'm not seeing Ramon. I don't know where he's at.
Just go ahead. I will read them up. Just pull them up on screen. I will read them up.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to get back to the talk. Right, there are so many.
We had a boisterous conversation tonight, man. Clearly, yeah. We got Akid Daly. I wish to hear your perspective on why you think the pollsters got it so wrong. Trump won by a landslide. That is correct. That is very, very correct. He did win by a landslide.
You guys can hear me?
We can hear you, Ramon. Can you
Okay,
hear us?
beautiful. Having some camera issues. But we coming down to the meat of the show now, where we listen to our viewers. So once you guys can hear me, I guess your viewers can hear me as well too. So do your thing there, Nigel.
Okay, okay. All right. Good night, Akil. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
Mildred Ben, good night to all. Good night, Mildred. Thank you for tuning in to Alternate Views. Lady Vaughn, good night to Kemar and Panelist. What? I said your name correct. Good night. Good night, Vaughn. Square 4, a regular on the show. Russia president named him the Donald. He gave him that name. Very fitting. Very fitting. Good night, Square 4.
Yeah.
The Donald. Matt Boland, good night to Kemar and guests. Great show. Only great because of you viewers. Good night, Mark. Sir Alfred Benjamin, 2016 Trump wasn't ready. He's ready now. We will see. We have 4 years to see. Sir Alfred Benjamin again, Kemar, you would have a field day with her nonsense. You, you would have had a field day with her nonsense. I'm not sure you're referring to. Square 4, they persecuted this man, tried to lock him up, tried to kill him, but couldn't stop him. God was in control. Okay, Square 4. ADG, good night, Kemar and all alternate viewers. Good night, ADG. Sir Alfred Benjamin again. The Democrats paid all them to sway the people. The masses not falling for that no more. I would agree. Time for smoking mirrors is gone. Deal
Wait,
world.
Nigel,
Good evening.
sorry, Nigel, before you go,
Go ahead.
actually, Kamala and her campaign would have paid out so much money. I know they're having some challenges recouping that money or paying back the artists about sorry, the artist would have obviously funded Kamala's campaign and so forth, and Kamala would
Mhm.
have promised some monies, but she was having some issues and some challenges paying the artists, paying some of the celebrities and so forth. So at that point, that but that the gentleman that just spoke, that point
Mhm.
was pretty crucial.
They
Yeah.
was they was saying she's scrambling. No.
Well, if she's done able to handle the Bucks, to deal with the Bucks,
Mhm.
then if she was in power, that's the question that would have been asked
For,
because
for
she
sure. You
she
pay.
couldn't
It's pay to
handle it.
play, man.
Yeah, she couldn't
Deal
handle it. So
Stephen Knight. They were losing after Obama's second term. Black folks that got tired of being taken advantage of. I would agree. Based on the voter turnout and the percentages, we will see how that continues. Patrick Designs made no difference whether it Kamala or someone else. Trump's perseverance through all his trials resonated with the people. Agreed. Good night, Patrick. Marcia says, good night. Good evening, panelists. Good evening, Marcia. Joseph Cadogan. What trade policies should Caribbean leaders advocate for with Donald Trump's administration to improve economic stability and growth in the region? That is an amazing question, Joseph. We will have to see. Okay. Adrian Chettleham. Nobody cares about celebrities anymore. Are you sure about that? Easy D. Or, or perhaps RPM is actually a Trump supporter and has always been in secret and wanted him to win. Now, that is an alternate view.
to answer that question,
Square, Go ahead,
I don't.
Ramon.
To answer that question, I don't think so. But again, that's my alternative view as well too. That's what it's all about on this show.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Vihoy, the PM is cunning. She is positioning herself. Many people seem to share that perspective. All the PMs that went lost their government, excepting the Jamaican Prime Minister. Easy D again. Mike Pompeo is a warmonger, former CIA. His quote, "We lie, we steal, we kill." Pay no attention to Pompeo. Okay, Easy D. Vihoy. So I'll ask again, where is she meeting with Trump? We will see very soon.
On that last comment, it was Pompeo being a warmonger under his tenure. No new wars started. So that is again my alternative view as well too. I don't know if Trump was there in his ears telling, don't do this, but you know, yeah.
Okay, good night, Marilyn Brathwaite. She would like to meet with Trump because she want climate change money. Don't think for 1 second that she want the meeting for the improvement of BIM. Pedro Jamal, good night, Pedro. What about weather modification and experience? Won't they affect climate? Okay,
That's
DW,
interesting. That's
HRP,
interesting,
my point.
Pedro. Interesting, Pedro. Interesting.
Mhm. So this Duggan says first it was global warming, which did not work in their agenda. Now they come with climate change, which is all climate hoax. Okay, Joseph Cadogan. Calvin McKenzie says, for the next 4 years, you can put that climate change thing to rest. His pick for EPA director will be a disaster. He will quickly get rid of all regulations pertaining to the environment. Okay, we will see. Good night to all the staff of Caribbean Progress Studies Institute and family. Big up on yourself. Vihoy, climate change is a destruction of the environment by greedy people. Okay, Vihoy. Okay, Kevin McKenzie says, Kemar, you cannot discuss Donald Trump as a normal leader. He's a total moron. To Trump, the Caribbean is Haiti, populated by poor, inferior people. Interesting perspective. Interesting perspective. Thanks for sharing. Okay, you could carry on, Kemar.
Before you continue, Calvin, I like your vigor, Calvin, and that is what the show is about. Alternate views all the time. So keep them coming, Calvin. We appreciate
For
it
sure.
for
For
sure.
sure. Okay. Kelvin also says Atlanta, where I am, has been a MAGA state now for many years now. Donald Trump's election will have no effect on my living. We are hunkering down for 4 years while putting up a resistance. Okay. Vihoy, Kimar, should we think about what you are showing us? Can you summarize and give your point of view? I would like to know as it pertains to our Caribbean leaders. Kimar, you have an answer for Vihoy? You're muted.
I tried to summarize throughout the presentation as much as I could. I can't necessarily tell you for sure I know what is going to happen. I could only speculate based on past events and what has happened in the past and use it to predict what may happen in the future. So, in wrapping in telling up quickly, we had a set of leaders in the Caribbean who went to meet with Trump. All of them lost the government except Andrew Holness. So now that Trump is back, are we going to see the reverse in action? Like, so that is how I want us to think about it as Caribbean people. And if the agenda know that Barbados, or if you're from another Caribbean country, like Trinidad or so, if the agenda of your leadership matches with that of Donald Trump, and how are we going to survive? Or how are you as a country going to survive if your leadership is not on good diplomatic working terms with Donald Trump, who has the full power of the U.S. government, and that he has the Senate, the House, the everything, whatever laws necessary to do their bidding, business. Yeah. Um. Yeah. You muted. You muted.
Okay, sorry. Easy D says, Kemar, I don't think much will change under Trump, but aid will be greatly reduced, if not completely stopped. I don't see Trump getting more involved in Caribbean politics. Just a feeling. Okay, Easy D. Stephen King, I don't understand why you see the champion. We're not. We're not the one polluting the planet. Okay, that's fair. Calvin again says the Biden administration is the most successful of the last 5 presidents based on all economic indicators. Any comparative analysis of Trump in the Caribbean must be done in liberal versus conservative. Okay. Calvin feels very strongly about this.
But what sorry, what I was saying, just interject a little bit. Inflation was up. So if that's one of the indicators where economics is concerned, inflation was up in a serious way. So that
Mhm.
is one of the things that was a little lacking where Biden's administration was concerned. Just to respond to the last.
Yeah. Okay. Vihoy says, I want to hear what Nigel Franklin has to say. I want to hear it from your soul with no fear. No fear, Vihoy. We speak from the heart here. Although it's objective and logic based, we no fear here on alternate views. That's why we're here. You will hear from me more. Nina 512. Folks headed to COP 29 on private jets and in first class is traveling with the lowly. Good night,
Mm.
Nina. Calvin. All right. Calvin says, oh, okay. Why would you drill off Carla Bay? It would only take one major oil spill to destroy tourism and its pristine beaches. I agree.
Well,
The
to answer
average
that,
black Barbie.
sorry. To
Go
answer
ahead,
that,
Ramon. Go ahead.
to
Go ahead.
answer that, we can't afford to not drill, as my good friend Nigel, like
Yeah, boy.
as my good friend Nigel would say. But based on what the Prime Minister champion is very contradictory. But I understand the word afford in a serious way.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. All right. Pedro says most Christians repeat the Apostles' Creed, so it shouldn't matter. Okay, Pedro. Nina 512. All world leaders have to meet the Pope. 47 will meet the Pope soon after. Obama has, but they do hidden things. Okay, Kia Boy, good night, Kia. What really is climate change? Something these leaders created? I would suggest you do a deep dive on Google and get those answers. They're out there.
Before we go on, top guy, you guys
Mhm.
don't hear about global warming anymore. What? Well, not global warming. What was it? The damage to the ozone layer.
Yeah. I know hot
Yeah,
topic. I know hot topic anymore.
yeah.
It's
That was
climate change
once a
now,
huge. That was once a huge topic before.
for sure,
You know,
for
a huge
sure.
topic. And I think it's
Any
repairing the ozone
any
layer.
ideas on why it left global the zeitgeist, the global zeitgeist of conversation?
Because the new agenda has come about now. Climate change.
Okay, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Because the ozone layer now is now actually repairing itself based on my research and so forth. So
Okay,
where there was a
that's
big hole and now it's repairing. So
uh,
there's something else to talk about, a new topic to talk about, a new agenda.
mhm.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's why I like alternate views. Always learning, man. As we're lifelong learners here. As Easy D says, oh, okay, go ahead. Easy D. Or the PM met His Holiness the Pope. Some call him a devil, others a fraud. But it looks fashionable meeting the Pope. It's all a sham. He hasn't spoken a word about slaughter in Gaza. Yeah. Square four, good night to the lifelong learning and their families. Again, big up on yourself, man. Calvin goes, Mia Motley is not Catholic. She is Protestant. Anglicanism is Protestant. Trump is a malignant narcissist. No religion. Okay, Calvin. And Lemuel Tull says the Vatican is very rich, so she's probably begging him for money. Okay, Lemuel. Dudron Waldron, it is clear to me the Prime Minister needs to deal with the economics Barbadians have to face every day. The Jamaican say you gotta dance a yard before you can dance international. You hear that, Dudron? Stephen King, there's nothing godly about the Vatican. Okay.
Sorry, I want you to read that last comment again. Not Stephen King's one. The one before that. F1.
Sure, good. Dudrop says, it is clear to me the Prime Minister needs to deal with the Breconomics Barbadians have to face
Okay.
every
And
day.
there was one about dancing in the yard.
No. I said that. I said in
Oh,
terms
okay,
of
you said that.
you should
Okay.
dance home. You
You
should
said
dance home
okay.
first before you dance
But
international.
you should continue. You should repeat that one. That one is a very strong one, to be honest.
For sure.
You
For
go ahead.
sure. Carry on, Kimon. Okay, Pedro says the irony is guys can live in Israel freely, but not Palestine. Okay, Easy D says I have never heard about that survey with the children, Kimar. It was a hot topic. You should find some information online. You don't have to look too far.
Yeah. There's a whole lot about that IDB survey. That's very interesting. So you should definitely follow on that set survey, ECD.
That was huge. That was gargantuan, man. That was a
Mhm.
big topic.
Okay. Lemuel Tull says that is a whole different conversation. This Israel is not the Israel of the Bible. Yeah. Victorious lady. Good night, victorious lady. The government would prefer Kamala Harris, but thank God he intervened. Yeah, so you can clearly see we have our alternate viewers had a various points of views. Victorious lady again says Mia's heart hurting her. Oh no, took her a lot to write that congratulatory message to Trump. If Kamala had won, she would have been on the next plane out to Washington D.C.
What a view, victorious. You're
It,
that
it is a
nickname
view
there is a very victorious name for sure.
for
End
sure.
up with that.
I can't get
What,
mad at she for that view. For
what a
for
view.
it would
What
have
a
been
view.
a historic moment for a woman a black woman at that to win the presidential seat of the United States. So I could see that happening. Yeah, Calvin. Kemar, 2% of Bajans are LGBTQ. Americans are not that regressive in their thinking. LGBTQ is in your churches. Christianity is retrogressive.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was never the point. Um, Again, nobody was speaking about people who are gay. I don't have discussions about people who are gay. That has nothing to do with me. Zero to do with people who are gay. So I just reminding persons don't try to drag the conversation over into person, but we're looking at a structured agenda within the legislation of the country. That's what we're focusing on. So you know what? Yeah. So we can move on.
Okay. Thank you, Calvin. We always encourage, here on Alternative Views, we encourage people to share their views. So thank you for that. But we try to keep it as objective as possible. Carry on, Kimon. Pedro Jamot says reproductive health care means killing babies. Very strong view. knowledge view. Very, very strong view. Go ahead, come on. Okay, Easy D says in the US, that's their culture. And new language being now used instead of saying breastfeeding, now chest feeding. Nonsense. But that's in the West. Square 4 says Russia and countries such as Iran and Turkey and those Muslim countries do not accept that directives ever since coming from the UN. Okay, Square 4. Frank, good night, Frank. There's a force that is bent on destroying the family structure, and LGBTQ is just one of the agendas that seek to destroy family as ordained by God. Okay, Frank. Victorious Lady again. Something about that name. I like that name a lot. Victorious Lady. Trump's policies lead more towards morality and societal values than the Democrats. Okay. He won fair and square by a landslide because US didn't want any more of that liberal crap. Okay, Victorious Lady.
Victorious name you got Victorious lady. You have top class name. Top
hmm
class.
Frank says Trump is president for the start. That he is, Frank. That he is. Calvin goes again. Trump did not win by a landslide. Check the latest number. He won by less than 5 million votes. Bear in mind that is the popular vote. The electoral college determines who becomes president. Okay, Victorious Lady. I can't believe you support a murderer of babies and the rights of illegal immigrants over U.S. citizens. Now that is a as someone living in the U.S. that is a very very hot topic. Where immigrants seeking asylum from their countries are being allowed allotted um, a lot of allowances to allow them to develop themselves and the U.S. citizens don't have that much to contend with. So it is very a hot topic, very, very hot topic. Okay, Calvin says, Kemar, I cannot continue to support alternate view. This is my last time on. I am disgusted by this show's support of Donald Trump, a convicted felon and racist. That is disheartening to hear. We never want to lose a patron.
Yeah,
Deal.
before you go on, Calvin, we respect. I love the fact, Calvin, that you're very strong in your views, to the point where you're typing in all caps. But we really appreciate your views. There's no doubt about that. And that's why that's why it's called alternate views, because we will not agree on everything, but
For
we
sure.
appreciate your participation all the time, Calvin. Bless and love.
Okay. Jen Wiggs. Good night, Jen Wiggs. Guys, all they do is to fool those who head bury in the sand. Ask about the weather manipulation in Barbados. They talk about feeding ourselves, but selling off all the fertile plantations. Yeah, that's common talk. Yeah, I was home visiting last week, and I hear some people talking about the plane with the weather machine. Some of my elders also talk about they've never heard thunder or seen lightning like that in all their years living on the island. But who knows? I do know that they do see clouds in Dubai and some places in China. They have that capacity, but we'll see. Dear world, Kimor, I got that impression too that PM Mia is demanding a meeting with President Trump, and she seemed to be invitingly demanding he fly out to meet with her instead of politely asking to meet with him.
Mm. I have that same impression too. It sounds like a demand. I demand you to come wherever you are to meet with me. Let us discuss climate. For a matter of recent climate change is a hoax. A leader of a 166 square mile country demanding to meet you. The same how that leader shout across the ocean at Putin and tell Putin, do not invade Ukraine. And Putin caught the belly in fear. So I'm just saying that realistically, if you listen to the rhetoric of our leadership, um, we are in for something over the next couple of years. And usually, when leaders who push agendas which do not align with the world powers, there are a couple of options: general elections, resignations, uh, using international bodies to bring awareness to your cause. So, if you could get some of the other larger G7 countries are on your side, um, maybe it could stand a chance. But Barbados, in the grand scheme of things, are definitely a country that is aligning with China in a very serious way. Right? And Trump is not necessarily Trump works well with China to a point. But Trump puts on the tariffs on China or wherever when they misbehave. So I was saying that if Barbados is openly taking these stances, obviously there will be reactions from much larger countries on an international scale because the countries have their own agenda to pursue. And by the law of size, nature, and force, um, a small country like Barbados will get rolled over very easy. That's just my perspective on it. That's just my alternative view on it. Yeah. But fellas, we have so many more comments. We can't hear all. So we passed 10 o'clock. We're definitely over time now. We're up and up at 3 hours a show. We don't usually go this long, but we had to take in these comments tonight to involve the alternate viewers. So briefly, we're gonna take some parting comments from you guys and then we're gonna wrap up with it.
Yeah.
So
I will go as Ramon was having a little technical difficulties. Ultimately, as the title of this alternative view show is, President Trump and Prime Minister of the Caribbean, we spoke at length about the meeting of some of the Caribbean islands, chiefly Jamaica, Bahamas, Belize, Dominican Republic, Haiti, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia. We spoke about Barbados and Trinidad boycotting that initial invitation to meet at Mar-a-Lago, and we spoke at length about seeing how majority, only one left standing, which is the Jamaican Prime Minister, uh, they left office or were ousted due to we're pointing to or we're seeing the shift in the political regime in the U.S. from Trump to Biden. Uh, my alternate view to come to an end is that, as I said earlier, we will see very clear lines in the sand drawn. I don't think there will be space or a place to play or to mush mush. You got to be very clear and stand on what it is that you're standing on, whether it be the liberal progressive views or the conservative views. Everyone has their reasons based on faith, based on a myriad of things. But I think that is what we will see coming forward. And as for Barbados, that too will be something that we will see. It has to be a clear line drawn in the sand on where you stand and what it is that you promote.
Yeah. So I just want to say this show was extremely robust. Nigel as usual, Kemar as usual. Another successful show. It'd be remiss of me not to mention the viewers. Um, the viewers play a major part in us being here, and we learned so much. We learned so much. I've learned so much since this show has, you know, uh, raised its head. And Kimar and Nigel, I just want to say I appreciate you guys. With the wealth of knowledge and the viewers, boy, the viewers. This show doesn't seek to discriminate or even discuss politics. Is not a political show. Neither is it a show which discusses or we don't focus on sexual preference. And we just have obviously our views on policy. That is what we focus on, right? It's nothing personal. It's just policy, right? But I want to continue to thank and pay great gratitude to the viewers every single Thursday night that take the time out to tune in. So many things going on, so many challenges, but you would have taken your time out tonight and every other Thursday night to join us to learn, lifelong learning. And that's what we're doing all the time. Every single Thursday night, we learning something, right? So those are my parting words. Continue to come true. This is Alternate Views.
Well, thank you guys very much. As usual, enjoy being here. Thank you guys for coming on and adding your alternate views to the program. Um, Appreciate you very much for your perspectives. I learned a lot from you guys, definitely. Um, you explain your the way you explain yourselves to the audience tonight. Um, we enjoy the fact that we have persons who don't agree with us on the show. So Calvin and all the varying opinions we got. Like, this is what the show is all about. This is we want to turn Barbados into a place where all ideas and opinions contain without regulated speech. Like, so you could say we want to sell alternative views without having the fear of being muzzled or having the fear of being attacked because your opinion, you know, is not necessarily statewide opinion. So we opened up a couple of worms tonight. We discussed Caribbean leadership. We discussed Caribbean prime ministers. We discussed the impact a Trump administration can have through the Caribbean. We discussed the fact that the Barbados leadership is at a divergence in terms of views with the Donald Trump administration based off historical trends. So we need to look at the future of Barbados, Trinidad, and other countries that were opposed to Mike Pompeo and opposed to deepening relations with Trump. We want to look at what is the future of these administrations and how will they function in a new era of Trumpism, if that is a word. So, MAGA, Make America Great Again, is the slogan for Donald Trump. And as Trump gets congratulated, even by the Barbados Prime Minister, we would wish Donald Trump the best in his administration. And we would hope that Barbados and America could find new ways to work together. Recognizing that Barbados is, a friend of all and a satellite of none. That we could work with America, work with China, work with Russia, work with everybody, at the table of peace, equity, and collaboration. If that body is the United Nations, so be it. If the Prime Minister is successful in getting Trump to come and meet with her, so be it. We getting the Pope involved, so be it. We should have more religious leaders getting involved and more people from different society areas getting involved in the world conversation because that's where it's going. And as easy it is, same with the emergence of BRICS, in the BRICS countries, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, we definitely need to look at the repositioning in the Caribbean, future of BRICS, and what a Donald Trump administration can bring for us. So that is, with that being said, loyal patron supporters, I thank you very much. Have a good night. This is Alternate Views. I will see you guys next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. I hope to see you guys later. So good night, goodbye, and oh, before I go, good night to Lifelong Learning and all the patrons at Lifelong Learning. And don't forget the match. Let me tell March. Don't forget the hike on Independence Day happening at from Martins Bay to Bath in St. John. The hike on Independence Day, sponsored by Lifelong Learning. So thank you very much and have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, good night. Good night. Bless
Big
you,
on
love.
themselves, man. Have a good night.